Today's book is Dónde, enterré a Fabiana Orquera, the first book in La Trilogia de la Patagonia by Cristian Perfumo. I'm pretty sure I found this one on a blog post of books to read in Spanish, but I have no idea where at this stage. Anyway, this book is set in Patagonia. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to have worked that one out. I knew nothing about Patagonia, so I looked it up on the map to see if the places in the book are real. Yes, obsessing over places again. And they are. Here's proof. The two main places mentioned are Puerto Deseado and Cabo Blanco. So the story is set on an estancia, which Google calls a small farm, but it seemed much bigger than that to me, more like a ranch. No matter really. That isn't important, apart from the fact that there are a lot of them on the map. But we know this one is 80 kilometres from Puerto Deseado and 15 from Cabo Blanco. A lot of the action takes place on the estancia, Las Maras, but a significant part also takes place in Puerto Deseado. The main character has a column in the local paper there, where he investigates things and writes about them. I'm not sure whether it's all crimes, but I'm guessing that's going to be the source for all three stories. At Las Maras, he finds what he believes to be an old letter relating to an unsolved disappearance of many years past, and that sends him down a very big rabbit hole. At the beginning of this book, I got a bit confused about who all the characters were. That's probably just me, but it took a while before I got all the relationships sorted. This, of course, is more of a problem when a book is in another language, and you may miss some vital clues because you're not looking up every word. The plot unravels pretty slowly to start, which is fine because I had to get used to the style of the writer, and things do ramp up by about halfway through. It wasn't, however, the type of crime novel where I felt much tension in the dangerous situations. Again, this may be a language thing. This book is just over 300 pages long on my Kindle and took about 3 weeks to read. The language wasn't too difficult except for the fact that some of the vocabulary was not European Spanish, obviously. This may be a reason not to read it if you're on the beginning of your European Spanish reading journey, as you might find it too confusing. However, if you're learning through Duolingo, that's not so much of a problem. There is also a grammar thing I noticed with Argentinian Spanish, which I'll talk about in this month's podcast next week. Here's a paragraph from the beginning to see if you think you could read it yourself. Don't forget, there will be a short Spanish language review afterwards. La carta. Cuando encontré la carta, yo de Fabiana Orquera sabía lo que cualquiera en Puerto Deseado. Sabía que hacía muchísimos años se había ido a pasar un fin de semana romántico con un tipo y que nunca más se supo de ella. Sabía que al tipo en cuestión, casado y candidato a intendente del pueblo, lo habían encontrado tirado en el suelo, inconsciente y empapado en sangre. Sabía que la sangre no era de él ni de ella, y que todo esto había sucedido en una casa cuyo vecino más cercano estaba a 15 kilómetros. The letter. When I found the letter, I knew as much about Fabiana Orquera as anyone in Puerto Deseado. I knew that many years ago she had gone to spend a romantic weekend with a man, and that nothing else was ever heard of her. I knew that the man in question, married and a prospective mayoral candidate for the town, had been found lying on the floor, unconscious and covered in blood. I knew that the blood was neither his nor hers, and that all this had happened in a house where the nearest neighbour was 15 kilometres away. And now for the short Spanish review. Este libro, Dónde enterré a Fabiana Orquera, es el primer libro en la trilogía de la Patagonia de Cristian Perfumo. Está escrito en español de Argentina, así que hay algunas palabras diferentes del español de España. Por esta razón es posible que así sea un libro más difícil para los estudiantes que estudian el español de España. La historia tiene lugar en la Patagonia, en una estancia, Las Maras, el pueblo de Puerto Deseado. El personaje principal escribe artículos en el periódico sobre crímenes y misterios. Encuentra una carta misteriosa que está vinculada a una mujer que desapareció hace muchos años y comienza a investigar. Pero hay muchas pistas y un largo camino para llegar a la solución. A pesar de la diferencia de idioma, no es difícil de leer porque la historia se desarrolla bastante lentamente